Hey everybody, this is Brenda Devine from Purpose 8 Institute, and you're listening to my podcast, Living a Life of Purpose, where we discuss the importance of purpose in our everyday lives. Discovering and living out your purpose keeps you focused on God's purpose. That is sharing the good news of salvation with others. This podcast is for people like me, still searching for the answers to who am I and why am I here? You and I were designed and created by God for purpose, and we have much to do. You can listen and subscribe to my podcast, Living a Life of Purpose with Brenda Devine on Anchor and all other podcast platforms. Hey, this is Brenda Devine from Purpose 8 Institute. Hey, I just want to say thank you again for joining me for another episode of my podcast, Living a Life of Purpose. So today's topic is reconciliation. So I'm going to ramble a little bit because I'm so full. I have a lot of things that happened this year, and it's been a rough year for me. I'm pretty sure that my measure of rough, based on my capacity, is nothing compared to other people. But it's been a lot of self reflection, a lot of humbling, a lot of time spent reconciling things that have happened to what I should be doing, what I should not be thinking, what I should not be saying, what I should say. It's been a lot of that. This year has been full of a lot of emotional ups and downs, ups and excitement with my project Corner Store. I'm down with the multiple denials of loan funds or access to capital for my project. Many ups in meeting new people, being included in circles that I never anticipated in, new friends, new acquaintances. Ups in adding new layers to my relationship with my husband and my son, new understandings of the dynamics between being a parent, a wife, also being a child, and also being someone's caretaker. The dynamics of, I shouldn't say caretaker, but power of attorney. Also the dynamics of thinking about your parents and thinking about your own life and looking back over the things that you wish had gone differently, but still having to push forward. Reconciliations of how people feel that they can discriminate you and offend you, and then also the pluses of and the fruit of humbling yourself through those experiences, even though while so painful, they bear fruit because they allow you to look at your own weaknesses and how frail you are, but also when you rely on God's mercy and grace and strength and trust Him, how strong you are, how many gifts and talents emerge from diversity, even when there are many that go against you. The ups of forgiving someone who hurt you, the ups of forgiving and seeing your parent as a person and not just someone who raised you. Just series of reconciliations throughout the year. And reconciliations take a lot of work, a lot of analysis, a lot of thought, a lot of projections or conclusions of where to end the reconciliation and to move forward. We can't spend our lifetime just pondering the past over and over and over again, pondering old emotions and traumas and who offended us and who said this and who tried to hurt us. And we can't just keep pondering those over and over again. I noticed I got overwhelmed earlier this month thinking about just how people are just the whole idea of racism, both as a woman, as a black woman, as a person of color, just the whole weight of racism and discrimination and I got so involved in just contemplating it. The negativity I could feel it in my spirit. And I had to say, you know what? I'm not going to change that, thinking about that stuff. But what I can do is I can flip it around and make a positive message. I can flip it around and make it a teachable message so that there's some reconciliation, there's some understanding, because we can't just keep refreshing these old ideas, these old thoughts, these old wounds, these old traumas, these old things someone said when you were a kid, when I was a kid, and things that just sting in your head, they just stay in your mind, and they just sting your heart, and they're just like a stamp that you just a picture in your head that you just can't seem to let go. But in order for us to move forward, in order for me to move forward, I can't keep letting those images just twirl and twirl in my head. So earlier this year, like in July, I had to go to visit my father, and he was in Mississippi, and he in his early 80s and suffering from some dementia, and just having to reconcile emotions that I had from him from my childhood and adulthood, because he's been consistent. He was consistent with our relationship, and it was I want to call it a complex but simple relationship. But I had an opportunity to help him, because I love my father and I honor him, and so I have to still be there for him, even though I may have mixed feelings about what has occurred in the past and the present. So went there, and I had an opportunity to reconcile some thoughts in my head of what I thought I knew to what I actually knew. And that gave me a big relief, because I got to put a pin in something. I got to put a reconciliation and into a thought. I shouldn't say a thought. Yeah, a thought about who my father is and what our relationship is. And I had an opportunity to put a pin in it. It may not have been everything that I wanted, but those parts that were good, I'm going to choose to remember those instead. So that reconciliation is important, that I'm finding, because like I said this earlier, and to also add to it, so about a week and a half ago, so my father died, and I had to go to Mississippi for the funeral. And I was glad that I had that reconciliation in July. Because if I had not had that reconciliation, I would have had different feelings at his funeral than what I had, because I was pretty much at peace. I understood him. I had reconciled my feelings for our relationship. I understand me, and I know that I can't let anything trip me up about what I need to do in life and for my purpose. And I think I do a pretty good job at that. Sometimes I have difficulties, but it was a process. I didn't come out like this. I wish I had. It would have saved me a lot of heartache and grief. But we all have to, what I call, do the work. We all have to examine our hearts, examine our lives, and go, okay, I got to reconcile this. I can't just let it keep going. Where am I going to put the pin at and say, it is what it is, and keep going? It is what it is, and keep going, because I can't let this impact my life anymore. I've got only so much time left in this life to live. What am I going to do with it? Am I going to keep mulling over the past? Am I going to keep wishing things had gone differently? Or am I going to keep moving forward? So I also had a reconciliation for the offense and discrimination that I incurred over the past 2 years, and I have to put a pin in it. I noticed when I was talking about it, even sharing it with people, this felt a tightness in me, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I don't even want to talk about the negativity of it anymore. I want to put that pin in it, and I want to move forward, because there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing that I can do about it and going backwards, but I can definitely do something going forward. I can accept it. I can move on and say, what's the fruit? What's the fruit from that? What's the encouragement? What can I share with other people? How can I make it a teachable moment for someone else? Whether it's the oppressor or the person that's being oppressed, how can I take my experience and use that for the good and help someone else? So reconciliation is a good thing. And putting a pin in it, putting a pin in our emotions and going, okay, this is what it is. I can't change any of this stuff. But what I can do is I can learn from it. I can give it to God and say, God, you take care of it. In my roughest moments over the past 2 years, it took me, because I'm hard-headed, it took me a minute to get back on square and say, you know what, God, I trust you. I trust you. Let me put down my sword. Let me stop fighting. Let me be quiet. Here, God, I'm going to trust you. You take care of it. You got it. I'm going to follow you. You handle it. And when I did, and when I confirmed and said to myself, God, I trust you in every situation. You are my answer to every situation. When I started to do that and live by it, he took care of my problems. He concluded that. He brought it to an end. But I still had to reconcile in it, because after trauma, after an offense, after a heartbreak, there's still some residue that's floating around with your emotions. There's still some residue that has to be dealt with. And I noticed I kept thinking about the same things over and over again. I'm like, I got to stop this, because I got to put a stop to this. And I have to make the decision that I'm going to put a pin in this, and I'm going to move forward. There's no sense of being free from a dry place and keep thinking about it and going back to it. Okay, that's not productive. That's not going to help me. And that says essentially, God, I don't really trust you because I keep wanting to go back to thinking about the dry place. I don't want to be in a dry place. I want to be where you put me. So I had to put a pin in it. I had to reconcile it and go, okay, these are the facts. This is where you are. And now you're going to move forward. I don't know all the answers. I don't have a clue of what I'm supposed to do next. But I had to remind myself, what did I do when I was in that dry place? What was the conclusion? The conclusion was to trust God. God, you are my answer to every situation. And now that I got this pin in it, I don't really know which way to go, left, right. I'm like, God, I'm going to trust you. And I'm going to listen to you. And I'm going to move when you say move. I'm going to go when you say go. I'm going to sit down and be quiet when I know that I need to sit down and be quiet so I can listen to you and not be absorbed by what I think or what I feel. But it is important that we reconcile these emotions coming out of trauma, offense, discrimination, because we can't carry that bag into our new space because it's just going to drag us down. I can't be who I'm supposed to be. I can't be Brenda. I can't be the encourager. I can't be the teacher. I can't be the writer. I can't be the developer. If I'm dragged down by old stuff, old emotions, old feelings. I mean, what can I do with them? I can't do anything with them, but they can do something to me. So putting a pin in it, reconciling our emotions, and choosing God over our emotions, me choosing God over my emotions, is what I decided to do. Because there is so much for me to do. There's so much that God has given me to do. And I know this, and I can't be my authentic self thinking about stuff years back, thinking about stuff for the last 2 years. I can't be none of that stuff. I can't be what God wants me to be, pulling that wagon, pulling those bags. So I choose to reconcile those emotions and to move forward. So this is Brenda Devine from Purpose 8 Institute. Hey, I'll talk to you in a little bit. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me on my podcast, Living a Life of Purpose, on Anchor and all other major podcast platforms. To learn more about Purpose 8 Institute and our ministry of sharing the importance of purpose, please visit our website, www.purpose8institute.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and even TikTok. If you would like to learn more about purpose beyond this podcast, Living a Life of Purpose, you can also purchase one of my books that are available on my website, purpose8institute.com, and also on Amazon.